Welcome to the Raising Confident Girls podcast, your guide to raising strong, confident daughters. I'm Melissa Jones, the founder of Girls Positivity Club and a teacher for over 20 years. In a world where girls often feel overwhelmed, anxious, and confused, this podcast is your go-to space. As caregivers, we navigate challenges together. I founded Girls Positivity Club to provide a place where you belong and get the tools to face today's hurdles. Consider this your regular check-in with a trusted friend, offering insights and practical tips for meaningful conversations. I'm here to help you feel confident on this journey of raising a generation of empowered girls. Let's dive in and raise those confident girls together. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Raising Confident Girls. I am your host, Melissa Jones, and the founder of Girls Positivity Club, and I'm so happy to be with you today. They're always good topics, but today is one that's really relevant to this time of year because if you're listening in real time, it is November. And what typically happens in November, if you're in the United States or even North America, is that the first semester of school is kind of like 3/4 of the way done. And this raises a lot of pressure for girls in the homework department, especially with older girls who are having to manage different classes, different teachers, different projects and tests. And as we all know, it seems like sometimes that everything falls on the same day or during the same week. And I've been talking with a lot of girls lately about homework and managing the stress and pressure of it. And I think we can equate it to when we have a lot going on at work, we have a to-do list that's a mile long. It can feel very overwhelming. And so I know what I've done in the past is either just run myself ragged to get everything done, or I have just been like, there's too much to do. I'm going to just not look at it and avoid it. So I've definitely done those things and everything in between. But before we get too deep into the episode, I always want to show my gratitude for you because if it weren't for you listening, then we wouldn't have a podcast. And I love hearing from all of you about what's helpful and just who I'm talking to, because I'm honestly sitting here with my dogs around me and talking, to a screen. So it's nice to know that real, actual parents and caregivers of girls are listening. And so I wanted to thank you and also remind you that, as usual, the best compliment you can give is to send this podcast to another parent or caregiver that it would help. And another way you can do that is to share it on your social media, in your stories, or on your feed, and just say a takeaway or something that's been helpful for you so that it can reach more people and help impact more families and girls in a positive way. That's the ultimate goal of this show, is to help. And to also know that I'm not a perfect person and that, this is based on all of my years of experience in working with girls for 23 years in the classroom plus, and then in Girls Positivity Club over the last 4 to 5 years. So that's my just background and the way that I come at this with a good intention and to help you and give you the tools that you need to support your girls and yourself in raising girls. So homework is a touchy topic, and there are a lot of debates about whether or not kids should have homework. And ultimately, we're really at the mercy of the school system and where your daughter or niece, whoever the girl in your life is, goes to school. So we are going to take the approach that the girls have homework. And really, it depends on the school system. It depends on their age. But girls can have homework as young as 5 years old and all the way up into that high school age, that teenage. And it can get really intense at a lot of different ages and stages. So I want to give you some different examples of what, as a teacher, I've heard from parents and girls and kids. And also as a parent myself of a teenager, I've seen all of the different waves of homework. And I also want to preface this with, your own daughter well, or your niece or the girl in your life. And everyone is different. Everyone handles homework differently. There are some kids, and some girls especially, who are very organized. They come home, they maybe grab a snack from the fridge, and then they sit down and they get it all done start to finish, and there's nothing that really interferes with that. They just have a set routine. Other girls will need a break when they come home, and they will not be able to necessarily do their homework right away. They just need that mental break, and they need to do something mindless. And then they might have a homework routine that is later in the evening or en route to somewhere else. So I've talked to a lot of girls too who do their homework actually in a vehicle, and that works for them. So we'll talk about environment, like what works for your daughter and the girl in your life. And it really does depend on the family. It depends on what you have going on in your family. It depends on the parents. If you're a single parent, if you are um, not a single parent, but maybe your spouse works late, or you just are on homework duty by yourself, or just a number of things. Maybe you're the one that's working late and you have a spouse or partner who is in charge of the homework. And, sometimes it goes perfectly. And if that's you, wonderful. I would guess that there are times, though, when it isn't so perfect. And what this podcast episode is about is helping your girls do their homework with heart, meaning they they feel good when they're doing their homework. It doesn't mean that it's all perfect, but they feel more times than not good about what they're doing and their routine and all of that, and also that it builds confidence in them doing homework independently. And I also want to preface that with there's nothing wrong with getting help with your homework. Um, a lot of girls that I've talked to, it's really about managing big projects. That is something that causes some stress in homework. So these are things that are challenges in homework. First, it's the managing big projects and feeling like they have either a huge project that they've put off, or they have a huge project that they just don't even know where to start. It's so big. And they don't want to wait until the last minute. So if you know your daughter well, you know whether she puts things off until the last minute, or if she's a planner and she's the type of girl who, when she gets the assignment, she is already planning out like which days she's going to work on it. Or if she's somewhere in between where she knows it's happening, but she's not in a huge rush to get it started, but she's also not a last minute person. And there's everything in between. So managing big projects. Another that I've heard from the girls is anxiety, anger, tears, frustration during homework time. So I'm talking about these big emotions. There are girls and kids for that matter who have really big emotions about homework. Sometimes it's the dread of having it, and just the idea of having homework is very troublesome for them because they want their home to be a safe space where they don't have to worry about assignments because maybe school is very hard, or it is just something else they don't want to manage at home, meaning it's already hard at school. And so to come home and know that they have more work to do that isn't easy is something that can cause some stress and anxiety. Also, if your daughter is a perfectionist and a high achiever and wants to do well on everything and is very detail oriented and really wants to make sure that she crosses all the T's, dots all the I's, like does everything to a high standard, which can make it intense to where it can cause some strong feelings and emotions. Um, Hours of homework. I hear this from older girls, especially in that middle school, sixth, seventh, eighth grade and up, is especially in middle school. I don't know why, but it seems like homework load is really, really heavy in that middle school age. And then high school, yes, you'll have it in phases, or maybe right before midterms or certain times, but it's not hours of homework every night typically. It just seems to be this late elementary school to middle school age that is like prepping them for high school. That is really the loads of homework that I hear from the girls. And they get very frustrated because they're tired after a school day. They also have after school activities and clubs that they're managing and wanting to not do their homework late at night when they're tired, and also maybe not wanting to do it right away when they're at home. So it's figuring out when the best time is to do that. And we'll get into that. And then it's also having meltdowns at homework time. So this can be a variety of things. This can be someone who is a student who school is not easy. I had a girl that I worked with just several years ago, and she really has learning disabilities. She has dyslexia, she has dysgraphia. School's hard for her. It caused her anxiety to do homework because it was already hard enough at home. I mean, at school. And then to do it at home made it that much harder. Just knowing, like, oh my gosh, now I have to do this again. And it's really building her confidence and knowing how to manage it in a way that doesn't cause her to have a meltdown every time. And that doesn't mean that they'll never have one ever again, but it's setting them up for success so that they feel like confident when they're getting things done. They feel like they can do the homework in a different way rather than having to sit down for hours on end and doing it. And just some alternative ways that they can do it so it doesn't cause them to have a meltdown. But meltdowns are very common. I would hear that a lot from parents. And I wasn't ever a heavy homework giver. I did, just because our school required it, give some homework, but I tried not to make it something that would be super intense. And as always, too, teachers are wanting to be in the loop about things. Most teachers are anyway. If your daughter is really spending hours on hours of homework, like on her homework, and you feel like it's excessive, you could always reach out to the teacher and see, like, is this what you're expecting, and kind of express what's happening so that you can work as a team. I realize that that's not always an option because sometimes, even though I'm pro teacher because I was one, there are some that are like, well, that's just my course, that's the way it is, you just have to figure it out. And it's also them trying to figure out what works for them as they get older, especially. And if they go to college, just like knowing how to manage that. So it's kind of building all those skills along the way, without always feeling so overwhelmed and anxious and just those big feelings that come with it. And then avoidance is another thing that I hear girls do, like, oh, I just avoid it until my mom or dad like tell me I have to do it, and they just almost like ignore it and pretend like that they don't have any, or like, oh no, they might tell like a little white lie, like, no, I think I got that done, and come to find out it's almost bedtime and you find out they have this project due or this assignment due or something like that. So those are some common reasons that homework can be stressful for girls. And really, I think the problem with homework stress and homework anxiety and these big feelings with homework is a lot of girls do feel increased pressure about performing. And that doesn't always mean that parents are putting heavy expectations on them. Sometimes it does, because we want the best for our kids. We want them to do the best they can so that they learn well and all of that. But most of the time, a lot of the girls will tell me that they put the pressure on themselves. Their parents might tell them, like, hey, let's take a break, let's do something else for a little while and come back to it. And the girl's like, no, I want to do this now. I want to get it done. Even though you can tell emotionally, like, she's not really in the best state of mind. Um, they just have that increased pressure because maybe they want to achieve, they want to get straight A's, they want to get the high grades, they want to be perfect, they are afraid to make a mistake on it, and they only want 100% or above, and an 85% would be failure to them. I hear that a lot from girls who are high achievers, is they're afraid that their grade's going to drop if they miss like one or two questions, and so then they obsess about little details about it that often will slow them down, or make them just have extra frustration or anxiety and anxiousness about doing the assignment. The second problem with having these feelings about homework or like challenges in homework is they have a fear of failure. So this is where they are worrying about not understanding the material, like they're so worried they're going to fall behind, or they are worried that they're going to make mistakes that are going to lead them to doubt themselves in that certain subject area or in that class, or they're going to not be as good as the other classmates who are picking it up faster or who are doing better in the subject if they are a person who compares and tries to be their best, but they're just afraid of failing. They don't want to be held back from a grade, or they feel like if they don't do well on something, they're going to be made fun of, they're going to be ridiculed, all of these things, or called like not smart. And they might have a secret fear that's like, what if I'm not smart? Or what if this is true about me? What if I am different? And so that can cause a lot of frustration and big feelings about homework as well. And then the other problem is that it can cause a lot of conflict in families. So I know in my first experience, like my firsthand experience, I've had big fights in our family. It didn't start out that way. It started out as helping my teenager with homework as he's been growing up. But it's been like the frustration builds and builds. And then, my husband gets involved, and then he doesn't understand the way my husband's explaining it, and things like that. And I had that experience for myself. When I was growing up, my parents were very involved with me and helped me with my homework and everything. And as a girl, like, you start kind of internalizing when you're not getting something. And what I would do is I would feel this sense of panic, like, oh my gosh, I'm not understanding this. Like, I'm literally not understanding this, and start to panic, and then think I wasn't smart, or think, I don't know, if I go to school and I don't know what I'm doing, I'm going to look like, dumb in front of everyone. And that's still the case with some girls today, is they feel that like sense of panic. And then when two family members start explaining and she's not getting it from either one, it can start causing some conflict. Or if your partner or spouse is like explaining it in a different way and it's starting to confuse her, or it's starting to confuse, like, we maybe do it a different way than they do. This is especially true in math. And there's not a lot of textbooks now. Most of it's digital. So there's not really a way for you to look at an example problem in a lot of schools. And so then you're Googling, how do I do this problem? If you're like, okay, she's saying that it's not the way it's supposed to be. I'm teaching it a different way. I don't know the way that her teachers taught her. I'm confusing her. This is causing frustration on both ends. We're starting to get escalated, and then it turns into yelling or throwing the paper or wadding it up into a ball and being like, I'm just going to throw it away. And then you're like, no, no, we can do this. And, it's just like a roller coaster of emotions. Like I talked about last week, a roller coaster of friendship. It can be like that with homework as well. And then before you know it, it can be just a family fight about this homework. And you're like, what are we even doing? How did it get this far? I know I've been there before, and I never claim to be a perfect parent. Like, there have been times when I've handled things really well, and then times too where I've been tired, everybody's tired, involved, and then it turns into this mess, and you're like, what even happened? Those are not my proudest moments, and those are the moments that I wish, I'm like, okay, I wish I could do that over again, because I would do these things instead. So, what can you do? Here's some ideas. And again, I want to preface this with, you have to know your daughter, and you have to know her personality and what works well for her. I want to start with saying the when and the where of the homework is really dependent on your daughter, the girl in your life, and what she feels works best for her. Now, that doesn't mean that if she's like, oh yeah, it's best for me to wait until the last minute, and that hasn't worked in the past. What I mean is, there are some girls who, they know that they have 30 minutes when they get home from school, and then they have a practice, or they have an after school activity, and they really don't have time to stop and get into a long assignment. So what some girls have told me is that they will grab like a hard surface and a pencil, and they'll take their math homework, or they'll take something that's easy that they don't have to concentrate super hard on, that is like something they can just knock out on the commute. So obviously I'm not talking about girls who get car sickness and they can't really do that. But these are just some things that some girls have told me that have worked well for them, is that they can knock something out that's really easy, or like rote memory, or something like vocabulary words, or if your school system does spelling words, that's a whole other topic. Because it's, anyway, I won't get into that. As a teacher, um, uh, And then there are math problems they can do, math facts, things like that. And so those are things that are good to do on a commute, especially if it's like a 15-20 minute commute, that they can get something checked off their list. Others don't like to do that at all. They just like to ride in the car, have a snack, listen to music, whatever their decompression is, do their practice, and then that release of endorphins during practice and that physical activity really helps them be more focused when they get home. Maybe they're having dinner when they get home and then it's homework time. So you have to decide what works for your family, and that could be different on any day and whatever your routine is. And so that's one thing I want to preface this with is you have to know kind of what works for your family, and you have to experiment with that. And it doesn't mean it's going to be perfect every day, but just figuring that out. And especially if she can knock something out or check something off her list that's pretty easy first and find some success, that's going to really be helpful. And this is another one is, a snack. Food is always a good little tip because it always feels better when you're eating a snack while you're doing your homework. Obviously, not something that's super messy or involved, but just having some fruit, having something that's a healthy snack while you're doing it just makes it more enjoyable. So, having after school snacks ready or just talking with her about what an appropriate snack is, like we probably don't want them eating a whole bowl full of candy while they're doing their homework, but it's, grabbing some grapes or grabbing something that they really enjoy, like a snack mix or something, and having that while they're doing the homework can make it enjoyable. Also, listening to music, if that's something that you allow, it can make a good mood, and just have that background music playing. It just like calms the whole setting of it, and it just makes it enjoyable. And no phones during homework is another really good thing because it's really easy. I know for myself anyway, too, in my experience, is when there's a phone that's a distraction right nearby, it's very easy to pick it up. So even to have the phone away, if your daughter's allowed to have a phone, have it on the island or on, across the room or something like that. And just silencing notifications so that she can, not as a punishment, but just as a boundary of like, okay, when we do homework, that's separate, so that we can get it done faster and better. Like it's going to take less time if she's not distracted by other things. And even background noise of like a TV or something. I was never someone who could have the TV on and do homework. I could have music, but never something that I might get interested in and get distracted by. So thinking about all those things. Another thing is a homework buddy. So this could be during a test, like when a test is coming up. If your daughter would really benefit from studying with a sibling or studying with a friend, having a friend come over, if they will stay focused on it, and help each other study for the test. Now, that doesn't work for every girl. There are some that they would never get anything done. It would just be too hard to focus on that. But others who are especially very driven, high achieving students, or just want to do well on this test, they will become really good study buddies, and they can have a snack together. Maybe they can hang out afterwards, something like that. And it can make it kind of like as a reward to have someone to study with. And you have to, again, know your daughter and know if that would work well. And that's also another logistics thing of coordinating schedules and seeing if you could pick them up after school or how that would work. So that's another option. And then, really, something big is breaking it down into smaller chunks. So, thinking about her brain power and when she's going to be best at what tasks. So, if it's a really involved, like she has to write an essay, or if she has to do just a response to a book or a chapter, she has to read and answer questions. If she has to create something, uh, those types of things probably aren't good to do right before they're getting ready to go to an activity because it's going to take a little bit longer to get into that mode and stay there. So just thinking about batching the tasks with what she has to do, and also knowing her energy level and how she normally is. This is again knowing your daughter and checking in with her and being like, okay, where's your energy at right now? Like, what do you feel like you could get done before we go to fill in the blank. What's something quick you could get done and checked off? Or what is something you'd like to save until we get back from this? Or just whatever it is, just thinking about what is it you have. And if they don't know what they have, having a way to check in. And it doesn't mean that we have to micromanage them about everything. And I'm sure there's a way that you can check homework of some kind. I mean, as they get older, it's less and less, but at the younger ages, there are often like homework boards or where you can see what the assignments are. And other times, like some schools use planners where they fill them out. If your daughter fills it out, some people leave it blank. So it just depends. Some people are planner people and some are not. So just thinking about like, how could we break it into smaller, more manageable chunks? And when would those times be best to do different tasks? So again, probably not something super intense and needing a lot of thinking when she's really tired. Save something that's really easy. Or I've even done this. I got this idea from my dad. When I would be trying to finish a paper or when I would be trying to do something, even in college, and I was just staying up so late, my dad would often say to me, and I just couldn't get it finished. He would say to me, um, why don't you go to bed and wake up early and do it in the morning when you're fresh? Now, I realize not everybody can do that, but for me, it actually helps sometimes because I was so exhausted that me going to bed and then waking up a little bit early, nothing crazy. I wouldn't save like a 4-hour project to do in the morning. Maybe I did that like a couple times in college, but we learn the hard way sometimes. But yeah, I would wake up fresh in the morning and do the same tasks I was trying to do the night before when I was tired and get it done twice as fast. So that's another thing. If your daughter is a person who can do that in the morning, now, if mornings are a struggle at your house and she has a hard time even getting out of bed, probably not the best idea. But just thinking about when you're doing those tasks and breaking them down into smaller chunks. And then some girls do really well with visuals. So I love a visual. It's anyway, you can literally take a piece of paper, make check boxes, and just prioritize and like write out, okay, what do you have today? Okay, here's what we have. Here are check boxes. When do you want to do which one? You could put them in order and decide, like, okay, we're going to do this one before this and this one before that. It's really good for girls who need that visual. And then there's satisfaction in checking it off. Or if you have younger girls or even older girls who like stickers, they can put a sticker on it. Some people think that the older girls don't like stickers, but they actually do. So just figuring out some kind of a visual that she can literally see what she's doing and check it off or cross it off, because there is some satisfaction in checking a box or crossing something off or erasing something if you're using a dry erase. And then positive reinforcement of high fives, telling her progress is doing great, like her effort, and being like, you're doing a great job, keep going. Do you need a break or are you okay right now? And checking in with her. And knowing too, like, when does she want you to sit beside her and just be there in case she needs something? Maybe you're working on something while that's happening, or maybe you're in the kitchen and she's at the table, or you're nearby, you're within earshot if she needs something. There's that comfort of knowing that you're nearby if she needs you and not having to necessarily sit next to her for every single thing. Now, this is age appropriate and also knowing your daughter. There are some girls that want you to sit beside them the whole time, and others who just want that independent feeling as well. And I mentioned this last week, but the one word check in is really good, not only for friendship, but in homework. Like, what's one word you would describe about your homework tonight? And it might be light, it might be intense, it might be hard, it might be easy. Whatever it is, that's another good way for you to check in with her and do like a gauge of how she's feeling about homework. It could be a feeling word. And especially if you're already doing that as a method for checking in with her about her day or her friendships or whatever, that one word check is really, really effective. And so all of these things are going to help you know that she's going to feel more confident doing her homework. It's going to cause less stress during homework time. She's going to have a better attitude about doing it because she'll have a set plan or she'll have a way to work through things. There's also times when she needs to take breaks, and knowing that about herself, and maybe she needs to go outside for a little while. Maybe she needs to take a pause and go do something totally different, move her body, go do an activity or go draw or just anything, take a walk. I hope this was helpful. That's just a little bit on homework. I could do a totally other episode on homework, if you have another take on it or you need support in a different way in the regard of giving your daughter homework support. Please let me know at Girls Positivity Club if you have ideas for this topic or another one that you really would like me to talk about and give you tools and tips on. And until next time, hang in there with that homework. You're doing great. Keep trying different things. Keep supporting your girls because we believe that confident girls will make a more positive world. And I know you do too. And until next time, keep on keeping on with that homework. Okay, see you later. Thanks for joining another empowering episode of the Raising Confident Girls podcast. Share today's insights with caregivers and friends, building beautiful relationships with strong girls. Hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. We're not just a podcast, we're a community. Follow Girls Positivity Club on social media for more empowering content on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. This podcast empowers you, supporting incredible girls. Let's create strong, beautiful relationships with the girls in our lives. I appreciate you listening today. Stay confident, stay connected. Until next time, keep raising those confident girls. You've got this.